Alpesh Doshi is the founder of a group of companies focused on transforming markets and industries using distributed ledger technology and artificial intelligence. Over the last 25 years, Al has worked across a number of projects, including investment banking, insurance, asset management, telecoms, media, for a variety of blue chip organizations. Al is a well-known member of the blockchain community and has extensive knowledge on the emergent regulatory environment, solution architecture, and token economic modeling. So Alpesh has been involved with the CBC now for, I believe, 2 years. He is part of our technical committee, and it's a pleasure to have him here today. Thank you, Alpesh.
Hi, hello everybody. Hi. Some of you may have already heard me speak at CBC in the past. What I wanted to do in sort of 15 minutes is really talk about the state of play of where real estate tokenization is. What I see, being, as Abel mentioned, I've been in blockchain for about 7 years. I started in 2014 when I met the Ethereum team. They shared an office for 2 months, and that's when I started working in blockchain. And I, being an emerging tech guy, I love tech, I love new technology, I love new business models, and being an entrepreneur, always interested in knowing how to apply these new technologies and build businesses. And so what I'm going to whiz you through is, to be honest, a lot of the things I'm going to talk about haven't changed a lot, but there are some key changes which are driving potential wider adoption of tokenization in real estate. So yeah, we've come a long way in blockchain over the last 6-7 years, and obviously the speakers over the last few days have talked about that. But the reality is that really scaled adoption of tokenization, and I'm going to use the word tokenization, NFTs, interchangeably, because in principle they're pretty much the same thing. But we're still at the beginning of tokenization in real estate. When I started working in it back in 2018, we were really, really early. Where there was some interest from customers, from real estate owners, from high net worths and family offices around raising money on their real estate projects, or providing money into real estate projects. But we're pretty early, and the technology really wasn't mature 3 years ago. And we've come a long way in the last 3 years. And there's new elements of the market that have emerged around DeFi, decentralized finance, that are really going to change the way these things work. So, as I said a second ago, for me, not NFTs and non-fungible tokens, which have been in the media quite a lot over the last year or so, have really got the sort of mainstream market interested. And obviously, most of that is in the sort of content, in media, in art. That's where it's really taken off significantly. But the reality is, tokenization, really the kind of ways you have a non-fungible token, is really how real estate is also, it's the same. The tokenization and non-fungible token is the same. And therefore, what have we learned? What have we learned? I think the challenge with all of the market is really about adoption. How can you get companies and the ecosystem around real estate to adopt the use of tokens? We've got NFTs for real estate and for tokenization, for raising money, for fractionalizing real estate, etc. And I think there's still a bunch of challenges around that. And decentralized finance is really providing a new way forward. The way the decentralized finance ecosystem is built over the last couple of years, really, there's a company called MakerDAO as an example, who really sort of formulated that market probably 2-3 years ago, but really started to take off last year, early last year, February. And it's gone crazy in the last year. So in terms of the number of assets held, it's gone, I don't know what the numbers are at the moment, but it's huge. It's even 100 billion of locked up assets. And combining that with real estate tokenization, I think will really change the adoption curve and really help the market apply the use of blockchain and tokenization in a more successful and scalable way. So I won't go through this in detail. Really, why would you do this? I mean, the key questions are why does it make sense to use blockchain and tokenization for real estate? And those problems still haven't changed. I mean, they're still around over the last 3 years. There's still problems. There's still issues around being able to fractionalize real estate, be able to have better crowdfunding, for example. There's still issues around liquidity. So if you hold a real estate asset and you want to sell some shares in it, yes, there are marketplaces out there that allow you to sell some shares that you might have. But actually, it's more complicated than that, and really hasn't, that transformation really still hasn't happened. We've seen small steps forward in that. But the point is that still the fundamentals around why this will happen haven't changed. I still think that they will happen, and these are some of the things that are still applicable. But as I've said, some of the markets changes are happening, and therefore, I'm more hopeful that we'll get greater adoption. And going to a bit more detail, around why you'd want to do this, having granular rights in ownership of an asset really can change the liquidity of the asset. And this is just an example here of the splitting down the different elements of a real estate asset and what you could do. You have the financial rights around financing. You obviously, if you're getting a rental income, you could have it as a dividend, and that's still happening in the traditional world. If you could have a better liquidity of those, you could have a better way of distributing those dividends and in a granular way. You could even do things like splitting floors and buildings. And I'm sure this is not new. This is what we've been talking about for 3 or 4 years. And you can then help transfer ownership as well. So all of the elements around this in a granular way, I just wanted to display this just to say, hey guys, look, it gives you a better control, more granular control, and more opportunity to create different financial instruments that are frankly not possible today. And that's one of the key areas around where decentralized finance comes in, which really wasn't there probably 3 years ago when we started this. And, it's only at the beginnings in terms of taking off. So if we combine the areas around decentralized finance and NFTs, that's where I think the adoption will happen. That is where I can see the transformation from CeFi, which is centralized finance, which is 99.99% of the world today, to decentralized finance, which is 0.001% of the world today. And if we take real estate, it's even smaller fraction. I think the ability to have the functions around decentralized finance helps to fuel the wheels and fuel the infrastructure to do that. So as a simple example, one of the areas that the decentralized finance guys talk about is a collateralization, where, for example, if you have a real estate asset, you can lodge that as collateral into the DeFi network and borrow against that. And today, you get issued DAI, or there's also DAI to Ethereum, and DAI is the token that MakerDAO creates. But what you're doing is you have a real estate asset that you own. You're prepared to lodge that as collateral, and therefore you can free and get liquidity on the back of that asset. And that's obviously encapsulated in a bunch of smart contracts that immediately gives an owner of a real estate asset the ability to do something with the money that's tied up into the asset. So if you have a bunch of equity tied up in that asset, that allows you to free that up. There's obviously a lot of complications around that, but that on its own creates a humongous amount of opportunity for real estate asset owners that they've not had so far. And some of the things that we need to do is have confidence and stability. So if you get confidence and stability in the market around doing this kind of thing, that breeds confidence and stability, that breeds support, that breeds marketing, that breeds what's happened with NFTs around art, publicity, and that sort of creates a nice virtuous circle, which is what we really need. And as I said, NFTs have really made NFTs and the growth of NFTs in the art market really made the world understand it more and find the value of having a token. And that really is really helpful. That connection between what the hell is this blockchain thing and how does it apply to me in the real world, and with the art market, is really helped to tie that together in a simple way to help people understand that. And I think that's going to be one of the drivers for growth. But we still have issues and challenges. A previous speaker talked about some of the issues and challenges, and we're still having the same things. The liquidity piece is still an issue. Being able to have liquidity of those tokens, whatever real estate asset, have a non-fungible token that you can exchange, is still early days. Finding the models around that and smart contracts around that are still early in terms of maturity. Regulation is absolutely still too early. You know, you can move towards using SPVs to create tokens. But if you wanted to have institutional investors and asset managers and the financial markets involved, the regulation needs to be still there. And some countries have done this, you know, so DIFC in the Middle East, in Dubai, and Abu Dhabi Global Market in Abu Dhabi, and some other jurisdictions are actually been progressive on regulation around this area. And I think the more confidence people have, and the more regulatory frameworks that are created and provided, it will obviously drive that adoption as well. And finally, things like data and security. Absolutely, you know, you're talking potentially about hundreds of millions of dollars worth of assets in single asset. Everybody wants to know that their stuff is secure, and you're not going to lose the asset, and you know won't disappear. And you know, we've had some challenges in the NFT market and in DeFi. And you know, that hasn't helped, frankly. It hasn't helped. I think the stabilization of the security side will really help drive that, and comfort and confidence that yes, my money is safe. Yes, if I put my asset as collateral, I know that there's not going to be any fraud. Now, you can't prevent fraud in the traditional world in finance, never mind the DeFi world, but being able to do that better would also help get adoption. I think that was it. Yeah. So, you know, that's my 15 minutes up. I didn't want to spend too much time talking. I just wanted to set the scene and give an update where things are. And hopefully you can understand there is a little bit of movement. That's great. And there's a little bit of media and publicity, mostly good publicity, which is also giving confidence to the real estate owners. Oh, okay, yeah, you know, but I don't think people have connected NFTs to tokens and real estate yet. You know, there has been some talk, but it's not mass market like art and collectibles are. So the key is we need more, give the market more confidence and more media, more publicity. The technology exists. I don't think it's a technology problem now. It really is more about how can we give comfort and confidence and trust to the market at blockchain and DeFi to start tokenizing the real estate assets. Thank you very much. Thank you.